Okay, today we're going to read a story about a soldier in disguise. And as you read this story, I would like you to think about 3 questions that you might have while you're reading the story. After you're all done, I'd like you to write each of your questions on an index card. So that means you will have 3 index cards and 1 question on each card. Does anybody have a question about that? Okay. So I'll give you a few minutes to make sure that you have time to read that story. Be thinking of the 3 questions you'd like, and then you may jot down your questions on the 1 question each on an index card. This is the questions game, and it is a post-reading strategy. It would be used as a post-reading strategy. The purpose of this very first step is to help students acquire self-questioning strategies, questions that they might have while reading a text. So as they are reading the story, they're thinking about the questions that they would like to ask. Alright, does everybody have their questions written? I'm going to give you a few more minutes to finish writing your questions. Alright, so what I need you to do is, with your partners that we've already established, I need you to trade your cards with the partner. You're going to read your partner's questions, and then you're going to jot down notes right on their index card, like answering their questions or maybe comments that you might have about their questions. So you're going to trade your questions, and you're going to jot down information or answers or suggestions that you might have about the questions that they had. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do this. So I'm going to give the kids about 5 minutes to jot down notes, answering their partner's questions, or suggestions that they might have, or ideas that they might have that have sparked them from their partner's question. They'll have about 5 minutes. After the 2 students discuss their reading, they're going to get together in partners and discuss all 6 of the questions, and we'll do that here in a few minutes. Okay, now that you have an opportunity to jot down notes on your partner's cards, I'd like you to get together in your group and discuss all 6 questions that you guys have had. So 3 of yours and 3 of your partners. And I would like you to discuss your questions and try to talk about the answers, that maybe why you answered one way, maybe somebody had a different opinion. And after you discuss that, I would like you guys then to come up with 3 more questions from the 6 questions that you guys had. So you're going to talk about the 6 questions that you had, then you're going to come up with 3 more questions from all the discussions that you guys have had. Yes?
Will we be working in partners?
You're going to be working with your partner, discussing the 6 questions that you have, and then you're going to come up with 3 more questions.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to give the kids about 10 to 15 minutes probably in discussion. This is where the importance of a teacher walking around, monitoring groups, making sure they're really truly engaged in the subject and the conversation of the actual reading material is taking place, that they're staying on task. So it's really important at this step for a teacher to be engaged in making sure they're staying on task. But after about 10 to 15 minutes of discussion, I'm going to call time, and I'm going to have the kids come up with their 3 questions. And these are going to be questions that may be still unanswered from the original 6 questions, or it could even be new questions that might be prompted by the discussions that the group is having. These steps ensure that the students have read the text carefully, thus increasing their comprehension about the text that was read. By making sure that they've come up with their own questions, then they've discussed the questions with their partners, they're now coming up with 3 more questions all together, which will help them ensure reading comprehension. This part would probably take about 10 to 15 minutes. All right, now that you've come up with 3 questions between the 6 questions that you originally have, I would like you to exchange your 3 questions with another group. I'd like you then to talk about that group's questions and see if there's anything that might still be unanswered. I'd like you to see if there's any new questions that you might have that you might be able to answer, and I'll give you about 5 to 10 minutes to do that. The reason that this strategy asks for kids to exchange with another group is to make sure that there aren't any unanswered questions from the original 6 questions between the groups. Or it might even be able to provide an opportunity for them to come up with new questions that are prompted by the discussions that they might be having about the reading. You guys are doing a great job. All right, what I would like you to do now is I would like you to get with the group that you exchanged your questions with, and that means that out of 4 of you, you will have 6 questions because there's 3 from each of your original groups. So then you need to sit together and discuss the 6 questions that you have, and you can talk about what you've answered. You can come up with some new ideas, things that you haven't even discussed, something that sounds really interesting to you, and I would like you then to come up with one question that might still be unanswered or that might be interesting enough that the whole class might want to be able to talk about. So from your 6 questions, I would like you to talk about them, talk about the answers that you gave, and then I would like you to come up with one new question or something that might be interesting enough the whole class would like to talk about. By asking the students to discuss all of their questions all together, I'm trying to get the glare out of there, it ensures that all members of the class have a chance to participate in the discussion of the assigned reading. This engages them in so many different levels. Each of them have come up with questions, each of them have answered questions, and each of them will come up with new questions. So this gives everybody an opportunity to participate, to be able to comprehend exactly what has been read, and give new and interesting ideas or perspectives on what somebody else has read. All right, now that each group has come up with one question, I will go around and collect just one question from the group of 4. So do you have your one question? Great, thank you. What the teacher will do then is collect one question from each of the groups, and chart the questions and maybe group those that might have common elements in their questions. The questions will be then used as a basis for maybe a whole class discussion or small group discussions. The discussions can be teacher-led, they can be student-led. There's so many different ways that you can go about creating class discussions from here. But what the teacher now has is a group of questions that each of the class might have, or maybe new ideas that they might be able to discuss about the reading. And that's the question game.